maybe that's what I would do. Realized they didn't have a passion for it, and most importantly, a skill for it. So I switched to the College of Arts and Sciences, but I had to reapply and be admitted to that college within the university in order to transfer programs within the university. So a little bit more rigid in its structure and doesn't allow for as much, although you still have choice and the ability to change programs within that. So, yeah.
So before we move on, it seems like almost everyone picked Sarah. Is anyone brave and would like to say why? What are your reasons that you picked Sarah at this point? I'm assuming because
confident hands.
Yeah. Anybody? So I'm going to assume it's because she has 95% GPA, so she's the highest, right? She's near the top of her class. Am I right? But let me throw something out there for you to think about. Where's her SAT? She has she has nothing. She has a test optional, so she has not submitted an SAT. Raul has a 1480. Brenda has a 1370. I mean, would there be arguments for them? Maybe. So just something to think about.
Yeah, it's a good illustration of it's not always apples to oranges, right? It's the very nuanced comparisons that you have to make sometimes, and it's not always as easy, you know, or as clear cut.
I changed.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to explain why? Yeah.
Because Sarah is the first one in the family complete high school. So we never know whether the parents and family would allow her to go for the complete graduation, undergraduation or not. But here you have one of the parents already being an alumni of College. So there is more probability that they understand what they will get in return and they go for us.
Yep. And you're getting ahead of the game, which is good, because that's definitely something that we're going to introduce, is this idea of it isn't just about academics, right? There's a lot of factors that we do consider. So yeah, we'll get into that in the next few slides, but very good.
There's a whole lot of additional factors. Yeah, so let's go into the next
slide.
So based on those particular factors, you've had a sense of who this group would admit. So let's talk about.
Let's learn about the students beyond their transcript.
Beyond the academics now.
Raul.
All right, so Raul, in terms of extracurricular involvement, which is definitely something that we do consider, we do look at, leads the Model United Nations in the school, I'm assuming, a debater, plays drums in a band, which is a band after my own heart, with his friends. His essay title, just give you a little glimpse into sort of what he talked about, what he addressed in the essay, is "My brother is my role model." And in the content, kind of expanding that a little bit further, brother went to the U.S. for college. Now he wants to follow in his brother's footsteps. So that kind of gives you an idea maybe what he was talking about, his inspiration, his little bit background, learning a little bit more about him personally. In terms of his letters of recommendation, from a teacher, from a counselor, they say he's an exceptional leader, but his grades suffered a little bit while taking on a lot of responsibilities within the Model United Nations. So he's obviously very heavily involved in the extracurriculars. And they kind of tried to explain maybe some of that context as it relates to the time and energy he could put into his academics as well.
When I went on a recruitment trip to Bangalore last year, I met Sarah, and Sarah told me all about how she had volunteered with underprivileged students, and she told me she was a leader at her school, a prefect, which is an elected position or a selected position at the school. When I read her application, How to Be a Dreamer, she had just blew me away with what she wrote about and her dreams that she had to be a better person and improve her community. She hasn't had a chance to travel, doesn't maybe come from great means, but she really dreams of exploring the world. She was able to articulate this in an interview I had with her in the lobby of the JW Marriott in Bangalore. And then when we got to the application, I'm reading, they were talking about this arc of her experience and such growth and resilience. She's the most mature student at the school, they said, and really does have this amazing story behind her family. Of course, we said first her family to ever have this opportunity to go to college. So quite an impressive young lady.
And Brenda's dad came up to me a year before I even met Brenda and told me what a great girl she was. he really hopes that she comes to Woodlands. But she's very active in terms of involvement. So she's a volleyball player. She's really, really good. Not to brag about her, but she's one of the top volleyball players. She's also in the debate team. She spends her summers volunteering with the elderly, so she has a real diversity of activities. I mean, she's an athlete, but she's also into debates. Her essay was about life lessons from volleyball. It was very, very well written. It came from the heart. And just really, she tore her ACL, and she talked about her recovery from that and how she's rebounded and all the things that she learned through that experience. And also, she talked about developing the leadership through sports as well. So she talked about the lessons that she learned, how she learned to be a leader, how she came back from her ACL injury. And even though she wasn't able to play her senior year, she was able to be a team captain and really inspired her teammates through other things. Her letters of recommendation, she had a bunch. I mean, she had 5 of them. Really, we only need to see 2, but there was a lot of information there. Talked about how determined she was, how bright and intelligent, athletic, of course. Talked about how she used to be shy, but through all these experiences of volleyball and debate, she's really become a more confident person. She's really blossomed through her high school years. She's really at a point now where she's really ready to be successful in college.
All right, so we're gonna pile that on top of the academic information that we just looked at prior.
Any observations about
What you see here.
anything here and what you would highlight? Yeah.
I think Linda is like more probable candidate if I was in this issue. Because this is a team which is very clear. She's a spokesperson, she's got essay also linked to that, and probably even the latest recommendation. Everything looks very authentic, very real. And then essays linked to her hobby. A spokesperson brings a little more things on the table for the college, for the people, only with academics and with this background that we're giving. She is, and other group, if I come from Rahul and Sarah, to me, I don't remember. It looks like probably, I'm not very sure. It can be very authentic, but I need more data, more evidence to support what has been written there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would like to add for Brenda because I'm still with Brenda.
Team Brenda.
Because she's learning from the life, that is a key thing which I know that she's a leader and she has learned from the life and she has grown up on that. So that's why I think she is evolving personality and she's coming as a potential candidate.
All right. Well, we'll do another round of voting. Is that the?
Yeah. This is sort of what we're gonna. This is what it all comes down to, really. And then we're gonna get this one spot left. Any other comments from the gallery here?
And we know this is. Obviously, we'd have more information in the actual committee. We're doing a little annotated version of it, but certainly this is a lot of what we actually look at. And in a lot of ways, in the committee context, you have to move quickly. So you don't necessarily sit there and read every word of the essay in the committee and talk about it that way. You do sort of have to look at things in cliff notes sometimes and get a general sense of, and be able to present that. So I think in a way, it's actually realistic, even though it's lacking a little bit of detail.
I will say though, we don't pit people against each other like this and have only one spot left. So don't freak out too much about that. This is an exercise so you can see our logic more so than a demonstration of how this actually literally works. And we don't necessarily put on such wonderful performances, although I'm sure some of you guys do.
Yeah, we do.
But I think in the committee context, we all found ourselves in a position to advocate for students. Obviously, we're the ones reading the applications, and within the committee, sometimes you're tasked with, can you present this student to the committee, maybe why you think this student should be admitted, sometimes why you think this student maybe should be pulled out. So, it's certainly a part of it too, I think, in some ways, where you do kind of find yourself championing certain students or advocating for certain students along the way.
All right, final votes.
All right, how many would vote for Rahul?
Raul.
Any Rahul?
Anybody?
I won't take it personally.
What are
if
those,
no one does.
those SATs scores? Really high.
Nobody's disorganized.
All right.
Wow.
How about for Sarah? Are we still feeling positive about Sarah? All right, well, we've lost a few on Sarah, I
She's amazing.
think. Yeah.
Compelling
Credit to her for coming to the
personal
interview.
stories.
Yeah, credit to her for
Yeah,
for-
showed that interest in the
Absolutely.
institution.
We appreciate that level of engagement. All right, and then Brenda. So the rest of you would be for Brenda. So pretty relatively evenly split between.
Sweet.
I think the Sarahs might have
I
it.
think by a slight margin, the Sarah's
Hanging on.
wins here. Yeah.
Okay. All
right.
right.
So
all right,
thinking about
next-
that, right?
Next, all right, next slide.
And then
Oh,
record
yeah.
scratch. Yeah.
There's a phone call coming in. Okay, hello. No, unknown. Usually we don't answer those, but we will. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. Yeah.
Hey, this is the athletic director calling. And I just talked to our coach for our volleyball team, and we've lost a couple recruits. We need more players. And I heard about this one student that is amazing. I heard she is injured, but she's coming off that injury, and she's doing great. So I just gotta let you know, we need more volleyball players. Bye.
Oh. Anyone want to take a picture?
Who's the director?
All right, so director of admissions
Yes, I
now
think that's you,
calling.
Jen. I think,
The director of admissions and really wants to increase the geographic diversity. So we've got some Indian students here, some foreign students, someone from the US, from North Dakota. So there are a lot of factors here that we need in terms of geographic diversity to consider. Okay.
And then the dean calls as well of considering what is the new science, at least in the science department maybe.
So, yeah, and there's somebody who is very STEMmy, I think.
Right. So then the dean, I'll play the dean here for a moment. I'm not sure.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah.
Dean's
Hold on for the next one.
Got it, okay. So, I'm inserting myself in this conversation as well as the dean of the science programs. And we're building a new science center, as we all know, which was a big investment and is a big priority of the college. And we just haven't been able to get as many students to opt into our STEM programs. And we want to make sure with our new center opening, with the new faculty that we've hired and all the investment we've put into these programs, we really want to make sure we're recruiting students for those programs and filling those new buildings.
Okay, next call. Somebody else is calling. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the alumni office.
Yes.
So, have you guys met Brenda's dad? He is one of the most engaged volunteers I have ever worked with in my career. He is so gung-ho for Woodlands. He loves us so much. He hosts events all the time for us. He's been telling me about Brenda since before she was born. He is going to be so excited if we can admit Brenda. If there's any way that can happen.
So we've done all this work, and we're getting all these calls from these very important people on campus. And it kind of really happens. There are a lot of priorities of the institution that also come into play. And that's part of the holistic factors too. So just another thing to pile on top of all this. So we just wanted to introduce that as well. So there are a lot of factors here.
Vote again.
We're confused at this point, I think, yeah.
Vote again.
Yeah.
So this is a little glimpse into kind of how it happens. So we just wanted to give you a little picture into the drama of a admissions committee. We're all just coming out of that actually.
Yeah.
Because it's right about the time that we've all been reading those applications and having these committee discussions and revealing all those decisions.
Talk about the different decisions we could have landed on.
Yeah.
You mean for these three, or just the general categories of decisions? Okay, got it.
Can we talk about this decision-making process also, since we've all understood the case study? Who did you take?
Right.
Who did Woodlands take?
We probably all give you different answers.
Probably would, yeah.
We might.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I thought Raul was pretty interesting. You know, honestly, I mean, he had really good test scores. He's a pretty interesting guy.
I would say,
Quite the leader.
I was tasked with obviously presenting Raul to the committee, but I will say, if you want to go back to the personal factors section, one thing that I might actually go back to the academic side first, switching up on you.
Go back.
Top 28%. I mean, I think we know kind of what the standard is at Woodlands. Obviously, it seems like he's in a rigorous curriculum, and he has done well in the SAT, and that certainly can help balance out the profile academically. But, you know, at Woodlands College, what, you know, we really factor and consider important academically is classroom performance, because they're coming to the college to be a student and be in class, and they need to be able to show that they can perform well within the classroom environment. Obviously, having the SAT is important, but that is one test you take, you know, on one day. Certainly something that, you know, to consider for Raul academically. Is he, you know, meeting our profile there? And then also, if you go to the next, the personal factors for Raul, the essay. So there's a typo in the essay title. So make sure you're, you know, reading that carefully, you know, using appropriate grammar, presenting your best version of yourself. We do want to see the writing ability. We do want to see your ability to compose a thought and communicate effectively in that way. Also the content. We're not admitting Raul's brother. We're admitting Raul. So while it's fine to talk about your family and the influence they've had on you and their significance in your life, you want to make sure that you make it about you. It's supposed to be personal. Again, we're not admitting his brother. We're not admitting your mother. We're not admitting your grandparent. Obviously, those are big influences, and it's okay to talk about those, but you just want to be mindful of that in writing the essay. We want to learn more about the individual, the person that's completing the application, the student that we're potentially admitting. So that would be my, you know, one thing I would say about Raul is a way that, you know, something to be mindful of as a potential applicant.
Just a couple of thoughts on Brenda. You know what? She checked several of the boxes. I don't know if you guys saw this. So she's an athlete. She's a volleyball player. That's what the athletic director wanted. She's a legacy, and the father is very engaged as an alumni of the institution. And if you notice, a lot of her coursework was STEM related. So we don't know what her major was, but if they're looking for more STEM majors, there's a good chance she may end up going that direction once she's there. So academically, you know, without looking at the specific transcripts, it's hard to say she's the strongest, but she's definitely strong enough that she will definitely be successful at Woodland. So I don't have any concerns about her academically. But again, you know, she's the athlete that we're looking for. She's a legacy connection, and she has a good STEM background.
Sarah is the best student in the applicant pool, better than all you all students. As a 95% in an IB diploma, physics at higher level, economics. I mean, that's so Sarah's a very good student. And why don't just take the top student, the best student? End it there.
I just don't see her being as engaged as Brenda. You know, so that's why I'm not leaning towards her. She's not bringing much other than she'll be the person. She'll study all the time, but she won't get involved in anything.
Well, somebody chose her to be the school prefect for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
We argue like this sometimes.
Actually, we do.
And that's okay.
And that's actually a good lesson in that, like, a lot of this, it's, you know, there's some objectivity in this process, but a lot of it is subjective as well. And there's, you know, it's hard sometimes when you're trying to, these are all good students. I mean, it's not, you know, we're quibbling here, right? Like any one of these students, if we admit them and they come to our college, could in theory perform very well. And that's the challenge when you're in a highly selective admission environment. You know, it's who's going to be the most compelling, who do you want to pull in, and having to, you know, split those hairs a little bit.
How many admissions do you actually need to debate about? What right now it's fun, but overall.
Right.
How many?
Like in real
actual
institutions.
committees, yeah. So,
It's not the same thing.
yeah.
If there are 100 seats, 80 is easy to go, maybe 20.
Yeah.
But that's my question.
The ratio.
Yeah, it's hard
portions of
to.
that.
I mean, so I could say it in this way. I can explain it a bit in this way. I think, and fill in if there's differences certainly. Usually it's the borderline cases. So it's often maybe where the first reader and the second reader maybe disagree. Usually if it's both because usually they all have two readers, if not more, on each application. So it's not like just one person on it. If there's an agreement, one direction or the other, those usually aren't the ones that we're gonna, really debate and spend the time on. It's usually those that are borderline, or maybe there's something complex within the application that we need. Exactly. So we usually distill it down to a smaller group, and then we, discuss that smaller group that needs discussing, basically, where there's not a clear decision, and that makes it a little more manageable, in terms of the workload for the committee.
Does the fact that Sarah was studying the IB curriculum give her an edge in any way?
I mean, the fact that we, liberal arts and science, the IB is a very broad program, and we know the student has been successful in a broad base of a curriculum that is attractive to some liberal arts and sciences colleges. But, professionally and as we know as institutions, we have students from all different curriculums successful on our campuses. And so it's not going to be one element that's going to put her on the top of others. But we can have confidence that that student, if the student will be successful. I mean, it is a good program, but so are the other programs.
Yeah,
I mean, not everybody has access to the same resources. And so, schools provide us with what we call a school profile that gives us an idea of what schools offer to a student, and so that, not all schools are going to offer the IB, or, maybe we're looking for, a certain number of years of a foreign language, but if the school doesn't offer that, we can't fault a student for that. So it's within a context.
If the school did offer IB and CBSE, and the student went the CBSE way, does he compare favorably with the IB students?
I think we understand that these curricula are so different. Students have their reasons for choosing which one they chose over the other. We get this question a lot in the United States with AP versus IB. Some schools, they'll take them interchangeably, which drives us all insane. But yes, they're so different. We understand you may have very different goals when you chose your curriculum at the outset than when you end. And so what we're really looking to see is that you're challenging yourself within whichever stream it is that you've chosen. So whether it's the full IB diploma, CBSE, or whatever else might have been available to you, we got to trust you to understand which style of learning works best for you. But we want to see that you're challenging yourself within whatever is offered of them.
And it's a good thing to keep in mind too, that you can explain this to us, on the application. There is an additional information section. If you feel like you want to explain your individual circumstances, maybe why you chose this curriculum over that, absolutely explain it to us, and then we'll factor that into our committee, to our review. Because it might be different for each student. So there are spaces where you can sort of explain individual circumstances and decisions and choices along the way too.
And if an institution offers interviews, that's a conversation when you can share. I mean, that's a question I ask a lot about I ask students a lot is, tell me about your curriculum. What have you enjoyed about it? What would you change about it? What's tough about it? And it's part of that conversation, and that can be helpful to us and interesting.
Is there a possibility that you have a perfect score in 90 and 45 and in your SATs, and yet you don't get selected?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yep.
So what could that be?
Probably not academic factors, I would say that much. But it could be, a number of things, right? Maybe the student had a disciplinary violation. Maybe, it's certainly academically they're solid, but
institutions who consider something called demonstrated interest, trying to learn if the student is actually interested and is a good fit for our institution. A student who has very strong academics but has never contacted or had done any outreach to the college, never participated in an online information session or an online open house. If you can't travel to the university, you can still do a lot of things to engage with that university. And a student who has not engaged with the university, a committee might decide that student is not really interested in us. If we admit them, that's the likelihood that they will come is very, very low. And so we may pick another student for that.
Especially in that case. I mean, you're talking about someone who's getting a perfect IB diploma, they're getting a perfect SAT. I would suspect that student has probably aim set very high and is probably applying to some very good, prestigious institutions where they might be admitted. And that's a factor, kind of building on like the demonstrated interest piece. Probably our data would show that if we do admit that student, the likelihood that they enroll is very, very low, because they're extremely competitive applicants. So, it can get pretty nuanced, I think, when it comes to that. But obviously, no doubt that's a good student and someone that I think we all would want to admit, and someone we want to bring to the campus, because ultimately academics are, I would say, is like, it's the most important component, of the holistic review.
The other thing is too, if you don't know who else is applying in a particular year or a particular pool, and that's what it can just be really hard. I mean, you just don't know if there are other students from your school or your region, or that they have perfect scores, different, but that they have comparable to your student.
And maybe that director of admission comes in and says, we need to emphasize geographic diversity, and we've already enrolled, a ton of students from India this cycle, and we need to prioritize, broader representation, and then, that could happen as well. So I think there's a lot of potential, and that's the holistic part. Really can open that up to considering all those different factors.
Coming from the CBSE curriculum, does it help taking an AP? Does it enhance my chances if I'm just studying the CBSE and I haven't done IT? Just to make it more stronger with the AP exam fair.
It's just the examinations, not
Right,
not
right.
the subject.
Right.
So for me, I don't think that that's terribly helpful, because for me, it's that not just that you can master the material and take a test in a few hours span, and while you're doing all of your other cramming for your tests and everything, like, way to go, that you are clearly a hard worker. But I'm wanting to get a sense that, like, what you're like in the classroom. And if you're self-studying for an exam, I don't really know. So I also used to work at a previous institution. You wouldn't get any AP credit if you hadn't taken the class. So if you had only done the exam, you wouldn't even get anything for it, except that you took an AP test. So that would also just be a very practical thing to think about. If you're thinking, if I just take a whole mess of AP exams, I'll come into college as a junior and I can graduate earlier. It might not work as well as you think.
A somewhat other perspective. I mean, I think it can help in a way. I mean, it depends on the profile of the student and because I think the CBSE we're going to be more focused on in that case, right? Because again, that's a better, I think, image into their ability to succeed in a classroom. Because it's longer period, it's more commitment, right, and over time. That will be what we focus on. But I mean, in absence of other information, certainly if they do include AP exams, we'll look at that. I mean, we tend to look at everything that someone includes at an application. So certainly would be something that we would consider.
I think some of them are shy. I had questions coming earlier. Was it
No
Sarah
bad
who was
questions.
talking about her maths marks? Would you like to pick it up, Sarah? Yeah?
We got the air conditioning. Yeah.
Ask your questions now.
I'm so sorry. I can't
you maybe
repeat it.
She asked me the question.
Okay.
CBSE requires a student to study 5 subjects.
Right.
Sarah went out and took 6 subjects because she wanted to show proficiency in math as well.
Yep.
Now she finds studying 6 subjects is impacting her overall grade,
Right.
and she's not required to study 6.
Right.
So she wants to know if she drops math now after 1 year, and she's applying she's indicating interest in a major in biology, does that impact her adversely?
That is a great thing to write in your additional information section on the common application. That is
Yeah.
exactly what it is for.
Yeah. Yeah, because we might not, the reader might not know
Yeah.
that the CBSE standard is 5 subjects, right? So that's good context to add, right? You don't want to assume a lot of prior knowledge. I mean, fortunately, we're all very experienced. I think a lot of us do have that prior knowledge, but you can't assume the application reader does necessarily. So help, explain that, and give us that context. But I will say, I mean, please feel free to add to it too. Like math, it's an important core subject, no doubt. So I think, language, math, sciences, those are important core subjects that, at least at our institution, our faculty have zeroed in on to say, this is an important, we want to see proficiency in this area. And that's not to say you won't have that. Obviously you probably did take a lot of math up until, last year, right? But certainly, I think a lot of us, we do focus a lot on those core subjects and we do want to see good performance in those core academic subjects. And it might vary by college just in terms of how they consider that.
And if I saw that written very nicely in your additional information section on the common application, and that your reasoning was that, perhaps there are other areas where you want to be able to focus your time, you really want to excel in other areas, and this is just, it's too much. You bit off more than you could chew, you are admitting that, and you're doing something that is good for your sanity, your mental health, your physical health, all of that is really mature to recognize, like, oh, I took on way too much, this is not working for me, I need to make a healthy choice for myself. And I see that as being self-aware and mature. So it's not necessarily about, oh, what are they going to think about my academics? It's also like, are you making a healthy choice for yourself?
I would also talk with your counselor or your teachers writing letters of recommendation and maybe have them sort of back you up on that.
And the subject of biology is mostly housed in the College of Arts and Sciences, even at large universities, but it's at smaller institutions, you're not applying to a particular major. You will arrive and you will it won't be an obstacle for you to enroll in the Introduction to Biological Sciences or Bio 101, whatever that first course is. You will have to take some math as part of that major, or most majors, or even most liberal arts colleges, at least one math course. But it's not going to be an obstacle outright at most institutions in the United States from that subject. Now, if you're applying to an engineering program that has some specific requirements for getting to certain levels of math in high school before you're competitive for engineering, for example, that may be an obstacle. But for a subject like biology and the majority of all the other liberal arts and sciences majors, it may not.
And I will say, one thing too, I think we're all very impressed by the level of math ability coming from the country of India. There's a big focus on STEM subjects here, obviously, and the students here tend to really, obviously there's a big emphasis on that, and that's not a huge concern, I think, generally among our application readers, that a student maybe from India is going to struggle in in math, right? Or I think we feel pretty confident about the level of attainment of an average student as it relates to education in math and science here, right? So there's that layer of it too. Yeah.
A lot of universities that have CS programs or computer science programs, they don't require CS to be studied at the high school level. They look more at the maths or additional further maths which the school offers. So any reason why they don't see if the student took CS in high school?
I think it looks good, but it's not required. I think just because across the board, it's not. In the U.S., not every student has that opportunity. I mean, it's so inconsistent globally, what opportunities students have to study CS. So we can't make it a requirement across the board because we would automatically exclude people. We understand that students have different backgrounds, and we feel that once they get to our institutions, we'll give them the background that they need for it. So, but math is a common thing that we look at because that's a skill that's going to help you with computer science, right? Yeah, for sure.
I think the question he was trying to ask, in case there's a choice between taking, two maths, like add and for the maths, rather than one math and computer science, what should be his choice?
Say that's
Up to you.
Yeah.
really is. We'll do what is going to make you happy.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a magic formula for a common set of colleges. I mean,
At
unless
a liberal arts.
at a liberal
and
arts,
science
at a liberal
college,
arts and science institution.
You know, at another kind of institution.
Yeah.
And that brings up a good point, because there are over 4,000 colleges and universities in the US. It comes down to that you have to do your research. So if you're looking at tech schools or research institutions, make sure that you are looking very closely at their requirements, because they may require maths and further maths, or they may not. So it will vary by schools. So yeah, make sure you do your research.
I just wanted to understand how important is the communication of prospective students with the college, like you also mentioned. The student is showing interest in the college. So do you expect the student to engage with the college prior to admission, or is that?
Great question. The question was about the expectation of engagement between the student and the institution. What I was speaking to about demonstrated interest, and speaking from an institution that does enjoy seeing that demonstrated interest, we do expect some engagement from students who are deep in their interest in us and are showing that. Since COVID, it's been far easier to engage with an institution from thousands of miles away from the institution. It used to be maybe you could visit the college and that would show your interest. Now you can participate in Zoom conversations and have those things. There are some institutions in the United States that do not care at all. They don't care, and so it is going to vary, as we said. So many such variety of institutions. It will vary. So you can ask that question of the institutions that you're exploring. If you're really getting serious about 10 colleges, that's maybe your list, maybe 8 colleges that you're applying to. You want to find out maybe which ones, and there are different ways. Some colleges offer interviews, and so you can have a Zoom interview with a member of the admissions committee or a member of the staff or a student interviewer. And other colleges in the United States do not do interviews. They have no interest in meeting students at any point other than seeing your application. There's a lot of variety there. You can ask that question of institutions when you start to narrow down your list.
And Brenda's dad is one of our best interviewers as an alumni interviewer. Writes great write-ups. He's great.
But you know what? We didn't hear if Brenda was interested herself. Her dad was very interested. So if we were to do that exercise again, that would be an excellent additional point to have, because think about it. If there are only there's one spot left, there are 3 students. Wouldn't we like to give it to someone who really wants to come and we know is going to come? So
Sarah came to the hotel in lobby and we met and traveled an hour across the city of Bangalore.
Yeah.
Traffic is terrible there.
Right.
And it took her an hour to get to us. That really showed a commitment, I thought.
But I think too, like when we talk about demonstrated interest, I think you have to understand the type of institutions that we are. We really value community. We really value engagement, right? And that's sort of a symptom of that, right? Like if you're willing to engage, if you're willing to show us that you match those values, right? And so that's where it becomes sort of an extension of that philosophy as an institution that we are. So, students who are willing to engage in that are more likely to engage once they're on campus, right? They're more likely to, lean into that side of the experience and building community. So I think, hopefully at the best case scenario, we build a process that's reflective of our values as an institution. And I think that's a bit of a part of that, what you're seeing around demonstrated interest.
What's the best way to demonstrate interest? The best way? Apply early decision. Visit campus.
Or
visit, but
obviously
to
you're far
apply
away.
early
You're far
decision.
away. We don't expect that. And I will say, I think, correct me if you feel otherwise. Demonstrated interest is a secondary factor. Okay, so it's
eligible to be
right. It's one thing that we're considering, but it's not like it's not necessarily as important as the academic record or those other really core components of the application. It can be a nice addition to an application, something to add on. But it's not, someone's demonstrated interest isn't in and of itself going to, lead to admission, into the college.
You got the back and then in the front.
Information section. Are students expected to elaborate more on their activities or
I didn't hear everything. I know you mentioned activities. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, in the additional information section. Yeah. Are students expected to elaborate more on the activities that they get into a section?
What's the best use of the additional information section?
Yeah.
Make it an extension of the activity section or bring forth something that I had an opportunity to talk
Go
about.
ahead, please.
Most people write nothing, and that is fine. Sometimes students will take this opportunity to copy and paste their entire resume, which means you're just telling us the same thing twice, which means I'm reading the same thing twice when I'm already reading 30 applications a day, and then my eyeballs get very sad. Some students take this as an opportunity to copy and paste an entire other essay in. Please don't do that for our sad, straining eyes. Really, this is an opportunity for you to tell us about any sort of anomalous situation or context that we should understand, whether it's something about your academic journey, whether it's something about maybe something in your family situation that you have, your parents work until 10 o'clock at night, you have to take care of your younger siblings, and that means that you aren't able to be on the basketball team or whatever. Like it's usually like a 2 to 3 sentence long thing, not an opportunity to elaborate further. The vast majority of students are able to tell us in a concise manner, which is part of the exercise, about their activities. They're able to write a good essay that gives us a sense of who they are and what we're trying to look for in one essay for the Common App. So I'm a big fan of the additional information section when it's used to give us that really important context that we need to know in order to give you the best possible read, not necessarily like your entire life story.
And I mean, how many fields for extracurriculars are there on the Common App? 10. So if you need more than 10, like you're filling out the Common App, there's a reason those fields are limited, right? Like we only have so much time to actually read the application. So I think it is important to keep in mind that if you're going beyond 10 activities, is there like, can you really do that? Like, is that really substantial, the things you're doing beyond 10 extra? I mean, so I think you should, 99.9% of people are gonna effectively be able to use that space and list 10 activities and explain in due course in those sections what those the impact of those activities and the significance of those. So, but well said, absolutely, Jessica.
We have a follow-up question on the additional information section. So
These are the online questions.
Oh, we forgot about that. Sorry.
We love you.
We love you.
Is it helpful to put a CV link, a resume link, in the additional information section, and in the activity section? Is it helpful, like some students do initiatives and projects that they do? Is it helpful to put add links in the activity section, or should those be in the additional information section?
We can't access a link in the Common App.
Yeah, we don't get like an actual.
Yeah, it doesn't
can't access it.
hyperlink
The
on our
additional
site.
information section is a hyperlink now.
It is now? Oh, okay.
It is.
Maybe it doesn't translate to Slate.
I don't think it translates
Yeah.
to the way that we read it,
Right.
because it comes over
We would
like,
have to
yeah.
literally copy it, open a new browser, paste it, and
It's not a required part of the application, so it's not, it's gonna be hit and miss.
Yeah.
Some readers might look at it, some readers won't. It won't have it doesn't have a universal impact.
But we're never going to be offended by it.
it's not a mistake. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I think, speaking to me personally, like if you're going to submit a CV, which we don't require, I mean, your application is your CV, right? I mean, so a lot of the information is going to be repeated on your CV that's already on the application. So that's one, but I would almost rather just submit it separately. I mean, like submit a CV to us and we can add it to a file or something as a PDF or as a, I think that just logistically is something that I would prefer at least, rather than a link. Yeah. Because we're less likely to follow a link, just being honest, like, the time restraints. Sometimes students throw a bunch of links and stuff at us. We don't know what it's linking to, where we're going, and following that link. And that's not to say we won't, but, I think we'd rather just submit the actual form itself if you want to share
How
a
much
CV.
time does an average reader take to read an application?
That'll vary from that. That'll vary from the institution.
And it can vary from application to application.
Yeah.
Some are more quick and more concise and just easier reads. Some need a little more time.
Some students have attended 4 high schools in 4 years, and so we have to figure out when were you in all of these places,
Yeah.
or just have particularly complicated circumstances. But yeah, and others are fairly straightforward.
Yeah. So, but I would say generally like 10 minutes
10, 15.
Yeah, so not a terribly long time, for sure, yeah.
Next question.
Oh, sorry, we're still on the, oh, sorry, we're still on the Zoom, yeah.
Is AP Computer Science A still a class one should take, given that it is an easier AP?
When applying for computer science, so an extension to Sahej's question. So
Right.
Sahej asks, do I need to study computer science if I'm applying for computer science? This is another one from the IB curriculum.
Sure.
This guy studies in Shanghai.
Yeah, that will depend on the institutions you're applying and the programs. I mean, it's again, liberal arts colleges, you are not applying to a major. You will get that ground level work. If it's a class you're interested in and you think it's going to challenge you, go for it. But there's no universality to that. But if you're applying to a college that says you should have that to apply to that major, then that's your answer.
Yeah, I hope Shreyas has his answer now.
Yeah. And credit to him for calling AP Computer Science easy. That would not.
Right.
I mean, maybe it is easy to him. I don't, but certainly that's seen as a rigorous class.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question. Many colleges offer summer programs and courses which do not offer college credit. But is that a useful way for showcasing our interest and engagement with the university?
So you're talking about specifically at our university taking a summer class or a summer program? Yes, no? I mean, you might get different answers here.
Right. We have a summer program and a program for high school students. We have had students apply then to us. They've been admitted. We've had students apply. They're not admitted. It's going to be the body of their work much more than just that one particular program. Those summer programs are great for students to maybe introduce you to a college environment, a university environment. Think of it as how it's going to benefit you, not necessarily how it's going to benefit your college application process. Yes, there are some that award credit that actually can transfer to your university experience, some that are just more experiential. So that's, it's really going to be up to you what you decide. It is going to vary. That answer is going to vary from institution to institution.
I mean, that could be a measure of demonstrated interest.
Yes.
We talked about that. I mean, if
Yep.
a student comes to Denison and does a summer program at Denison, certainly that's, our campus, you visited the campus. So maybe along those lines in a way, it's a good way to show your interest and your intention.
You might really enjoy your time on that institution's campus, and then you say, hey, that's my top choice college now. I'm going to apply early decision. So that's been a benefit to you as a person, as a human, to see that experience and have that experience.
But generally, I think those are good experierices to have when you get to.
Yes.
He's come straight from the airport. She just landed.
Oh, wow.
She's on the board and she's come.
Yeah, so I have a question. How does it affect the university application if you move around different high schools in the last 2 years?
Yep. Good question.
We see that.
Yeah.
See that,
We
yeah.
do. We see that a fair amount. So, one thing I prefer is to see the transcript from each school. If you have any say with your school or guidance counselor, as opposed to your current school, like just putting your transfer grades on the current school. I prefer to see the actual transcript from each school, so we can interpret that ourselves so if that's an option. But yeah, we see that a fair amount. So you're not going to be the only one who totally understands. It happens, and it's not easy for you.
Yeah, in a way, that can show resiliency, right? It can show you can adapt and you can change and you can thrive in different environments, right? So I think it could be how you talk about it, maybe something to add additional information, and if you want to help us explain why, right, and why there were the changes. But I don't think it's a neutral thing, like changing schools. I mean, it was your parents, right, that were moving around, right? It probably wasn't your choice, or maybe it was, but we see that a lot more, though. Like you said, there are a lot more students now who are changing high schools, moving around, right? Especially now we're getting out of the pandemic, and that's happening more again. So.
And there is a special question on the Common App just for this. Why, did you change your educational progression or anything like that? That is the place to put that. My family moved from here to here, so I had to change schools. Or I decided I want to go to this particular school that's boarding school in another country, and I was late to this wonderful session from these admission people because I was coming from the airport. That's the kind of thing that you can put in that education progression question in particular.
Did you have a related question?
Yeah.
ED system.
Early decision, yeah, early decision.
The advantage of
Early
going
decision.
ED.
Yeah.
Learning decision.
Yep, so early decision early decision is a binding round of admission. You'll see different rounds in each admission cycle that colleges offer. You'll often see early decision, you'll see early action. Those are both early rounds, but they're different. Early decision is a binding round of admission. So when you apply to a college in early decision, you can only apply to one college at a time. Early decision. You have to sign an early decision agreement that binds you to the institution if you're admitted. So then you'd be obligated to, per the conditions of the agreement that you signed, withdraw your other applications and enroll at the college that admitted you. So it's a commitment from the student and from the family, but it's a great option if you are confident that that school is your top choice and you would enroll if you were admitted at that school. And for the college, there's a lot of benefits to enrolling our students earlier and that getting that commitment from the student and family. So typically applying early decision, the admission rate might be a bit higher compared to regular decision. Not every school offers an early decision, but it's something to consider, if it's a top choice school, if they do offer that. Again, there's early action is non-binding. So if you see early action, that's more just early in the admission cycle and you get an early result, but you're not obligated to that university through that round. And then still the vast majority of students that apply in regular decision because it's non-binding. It gives you flexibility of comparing schools and maybe you get multiple offers and so on. So hopefully that makes sense and it explains it. Obviously, we can probably talk more about that, but that's the basic.
If a student does the CS, or if a student does the course or the class or A-level CS, and if another student does CS but not as a class, if we develop a project or an app outside of school, how would those two decisions look like?
This is where I feel like the exercise we did today is tough because we don't pit people against each other like that.
Yeah.
Like both of those students could be very successful in our applicant pool, depending on what else we've done with all the other thousands of other people that we've read. Some of those two students may have different decisions. They may have the same decision. From year to year, those decisions might be different. So that's why it's hard for us to say like, okay, this is my exact situation. What's going to happen to me? Because we don't know. Like when we say we don't know, we really mean it. That's the thing that is, I think, liberating for us as professionals, but really challenging for y'all as people trying to navigate this process to understand, like, when am I going to get in? Can you just tell me that? Like, I have this GPA, I have this SAT score. Why can't you tell me if I'm in or not? Because the way that the U.S. does things is so different from so many other places. We joke oftentimes that the answer to most questions that we get is it depends. And that is the answer here, at least for me.
I think that's a good answer.
So either is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the extenuating circumstances around the application which will probably play a role.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We're at 4, anything.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Online.
Anything else on that? Good.
Well, I know we.
Thank you so much. We'd like to hear more about your colleges. If you could tell us a little more as to what each one of you offers, which these students can consider.
Yeah.
I think we'll all appreciate that. If you want a break and have a cup of tea before you do that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
We can be very brief, and then we're also welcome to stay around and answer questions individually. So, yeah, and have materials.
Yeah, we have some brochures and stuff that we can hand out.
90 seconds.
Yeah, we'll do the quick overviews. We'll give you the annotated version.
There you go. I'll start.
All right.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I'm from Skidmore College, which is a small residential liberal arts and sciences institution. We're located in Saratoga Springs, New York, which is a beautiful and cultural small city in upstate New York. And we are a liberal arts and sciences college. We have great breadth in our curriculum, over 40 majors to choose from. Some of our most traditional and historically popular programs at Skidmore have been in the sciences, in the fine and performing arts, and in business and some of our pre-professional majors. And we have about 2,700 students studying at Skidmore. Students come to Skidmore from over 60 countries around the world. About 10% of our students are international students. And we are a almost fully residential college. About 90% of our students live on campus and in our area. We're located, Saratoga Springs is about 3 hours from New York City, 3 hours from Boston, and 3 hours from Montreal. So in a very central location in the northeast of the United States. So that's Skidmore College.
All right. I am representing Bryn Mawr College, and we are just outside the city of Philadelphia, which is sandwiched right in between Washington, D.C. and New York. So like my colleagues here, we're a liberal arts and sciences college. Unlike my colleagues, we are a women's college, so that makes us a little bit different. It's one of the best things about us, and I'm happy to talk with you because most students have a lot of questions about that, but it's one of the best things about us. We have a variety of different academic programs. I can give you some facts and figures if you come over to talk to me. A couple other unique things about us. We have a partnership with 3 other colleges, Haverford College, Swarthmore College, and the University of Pennsylvania. So I don't mind talking to co-ed groups because Haverford College, a co-ed college, is right next door to us, and there are hundreds of students taking classes back and forth between Bryn Mawr and Haverford every single day. So it's extremely common every single day. At Bryn Mawr, there are lots of interesting, it's a super strong community, very residential, housing guarantee for all 4 years. We have lots of traditions and ceremonies and celebrations on campus. Some are silly, some are serious, some are secret. And come over and talk to me, I'll tell you more about that.
There you go. Stand up since I'm in the back row here. So once again, I'm Jessica. I'm from Occidental College, which is on the other end of the U.S. from my colleagues here. We are in Los Angeles, California, the 2nd largest city in the U.S. So we are in the neighborhood of Eagle Rock, which is in Northeast LA, if any of you happen to be familiar with Southern California. And being in Los Angeles means our students have tons of opportunities to use the city as their classroom, the jumping off point for their career with internships or interesting research opportunities. And then also a number of our classes will have some sort of a field trip component. So for example, we have a class that is an international economics class, and they go visit the port of Los Angeles, which is one of the busiest ports in the world. And instead of just learning from a textbook about imports and exports, you say, hey, look, imports over on that boat right there. So your education really can come to life by seeing real life examples of what you're studying. We also have a big emphasis on research. We have an undergraduate research center on campus. Between 100 and 150 students live on campus every summer and do funded research in a variety of different areas. So that's something that is really important to our students, and it's something that is we want our students to be adding to the canon of knowledge, I guess you could say. So most popular majors are economics, diplomacy and world affairs, biology, psychology, and computer science, but politics is also often in the top 5 as well.
Hello again, I'm Bryce Benton. I represent Denison. We are Denison University, although we call ourselves a college, and that's actually one thing that, kind of what we talked about earlier with the liberal arts college overview. A lot of us, in the U.S., we consider a college to be an undergraduate institution, a university to be a comprehensive institution. But there are some, of course, outliers in that. But yeah, we are very much an undergraduate college at Denison. We have 2,300 students total. A few things our student body is known for: being very geographically diverse. We have over 70 countries represented. Nearly 20% of our students are international. And then over half of our students come from over 500 miles away to attend the college. We're located in Granville, Ohio, which is right outside the city of Columbus, so kind of in the Midwest region on the eastern side of that region. Our campus is really beautiful. That's something it's known for. We're on the top of a hill in a smaller college town, so a very safe, quiet, kind of in this area surrounding the campus, very welcoming, community-oriented place. We have 65 majors that we offer, so quite a lot you can choose from. Our most popular programs kind of mirror national averages, so economics, psychology, communication, biology, Data analytics is one of our most popular programs. We have 3 things that we really focus on at Denison and do really well. One is relationships and individual mentorship. Obviously, that's a big component of all liberal arts and sciences colleges, but especially at Denison. We have tremendous resources, a lot of opportunities for students. We're actually ranked in the top 20 of all universities for internships, and we're very career-oriented, very pragmatic, and we sort of marry what's great about a very holistic, interdisciplinary liberal arts and sciences curriculum, and then match that with a very career-oriented curriculum. We actually have a center in downtown Columbus that does all career training certificates and credentials, so you get a really well-rounded experience along with that. We offer financial aid and scholarships out to international students, and there's obviously a ton more we could talk about, but I'll just end there, give you the basic profile.
And again, I represent Bucknell University. Bucknell, location-wise, is also in Pennsylvania. Unlike Bryn Mawr, they're close to Philadelphia. We're more in the middle of the state. We're about an hour north of the state capital of Harrisburg. We're in a very small town, college town called Lewisburg, which is a very charming town. Our students love it. They can walk into the center of town. It's about a 10-minute walk, and that's where a lot of the shops and restaurants are. It's in a very safe area. In terms of liberal arts colleges, we are larger. We are probably one of the largest ones in the country. We have about 3,700 undergraduate students. We also have a very small graduate program. When I say small, I really do mean small. There's like 30 to 50 students in it. So they're doing their own thing. They're not teaching any of the classes. All the classes are taught by professors. Average class size is 20 at Bucknell. And that's one of the things that we promote, is that we're kind of a hybrid where you get all the benefits of a small liberal arts college, like the close student-faculty interaction, but some of the things you might find at a larger university, like great research facilities. We're actually divided into 3 separate colleges. So we have our College of Arts and Sciences, but we're a little bit unique in that we have a college just for students who want to study engineering, and another one for students who just want to study business management. So you don't often see that within a liberal arts context. But we do that intentionally because we want our students who are going to be engineers and business people and doctors and lawyers to have that understanding of different disciplines, to understand the impact of their work within regards to other areas as well. We're very residential, so we guarantee housing for all 4 years for all of our students. We have a very active international student organization, a very supportive international student support office as well that provides airport transportation, a week-long orientation, and just support throughout your 4 years while you're on campus. So that's Bucknell. Happy to talk to anyone later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
If you have any questions about any of their universities, you can talk to them separately.
Yeah.
All your, I'll have a couple of people that are chat
Yeah.
before you leave. One photograph with the students with all of you before you leave.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should we do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Before everyone leaves.
Students,
Yeah.
please.
Where should we?
Where do you want us?
Oh,
Maybe over
Over
here.
here?
Like,
Seems like let's turn that off. I guess we can turn that off. Say bye to the people on Zoom.
yeah.